Okay, I'm going to discuss how to save money when buying a house, things to look for, and how to negotiate better prices. Now, before I start, I just want to say that this is just what I use and how I've saved a lot of money when buying houses. I haven't saved like hundreds of thousands or anything like that, but I have managed to get the price down. And again, it's all about finding comfortable ways of applying these techniques that you can use every day. Well, not every day, you don't buy a house every day, but that you can use with when you're negotiating for other things. But more specifically, you won't be apprehensive about when it comes to negotiating prices when buying a house, and it will also give you the most power. Okay, so now a lot of people might be thinking, oh, when it comes to negotiating, especially on big deals like buying a house, you have to know how to lie and manipulate. That's not true, and a lot of people might be apprehensive about negotiating because they don't know how to lie, and they probably think that lying is a big aspect of it. Now, don't get me wrong, I am real, and lying can help, and it's true, but it's not easy to lie, and you can't consistently keep lying. It's not good to lie. I mean, it's not good for yourself. Obviously, it's not good for society if everyone's going around lying, but it's also not good for yourself. It can just create confusion and you don't want to create like a web of lies every time you want to do deals. So the good thing about life is that there are ways that you can do deals. You can save money when buying a house without lying. So to start with, I'll begin, and for example, the first thing you want to do is look for as many problems as you can when buying a house. So when you go to a house, go to an open house, you want to look for as many issues as you can. You don't want to go in looking for what's good about it. You want to go in looking for what's bad about it. Okay, a lot of times when people go looking for a house, they're looking for the perfect house, and then they go in looking for what they want. But you don't want to do that. You want to go in looking for what you don't want. So you see a house that you find attractive. Okay, now you want to go in there and you want to go in and think, okay, what's all the things that are wrong with this place? I want to find as many problems as I can, and as many reasons that would stop me from buying it. So, for example, the apartment I bought, I saved 15 grand on the latest apartment I bought that I moved into. It was in a nice neighborhood, an okay neighborhood, but it was an old apartment complex. So when I went in, I looked for as many problems as I can. So you have to do a bit of homework beforehand. Because you don't want to get in there and not be able to think about what are problems. So do a bit of homework, figure out what things that can cost money to repair. So for example, like curtains, the fly screens on windows, maybe cracks in the ceiling and all that, gaps in the skirting boards. There might be gaps. Look for any issues that will require handiwork, that will require you to do that. Okay, now when you made your list, take that list with you when you're looking at houses, and when you find these problems. Okay, so let's say for example the apartment I bought, there wasn't a fly screen on one of the windows. Okay, so when you find these problems, you have to have an estimate of how much that would cost to fix. So now you can't just guess that. You want to be roughly correct, and you want to round up. So I could fix the fly screen. I could probably fix the fly screen for like $50. Okay, to do it myself. Right, I could do the fly screen myself, or I'll get one of my friends to help me to do it. But I don't want to say that when I'm negotiating, okay? Because I shouldn't have to do it myself. All right. So when I negotiate, when I'm talking to the real estate agent, I'd say, for example, the fly screen, and I'd round up and I say, okay, that's about $250 to repair. So I'll write that down and add it to the list, and I'll look for as many problems as I can find. So I'll find like there might be some gaps in the skirting board, a little gap. I'll say, well, I'll speak to the agent. I'll say, well, that's something I'm going to have to fill to get rid of that gap. I don't have to, but if I don't want to live with that, I'm going to have to fill that. So that could cost a couple of $100 to get a guy around to do that. So that's $400 right now that I have to pay. There could be any other issues. There could be if the walls have gone a bit off color. I could say, look, the walls gone a bit off color. I'm going to have to repaint the walls. That could cost a few $100s. If I got a professional to do it, that could cost a few grand. So I'll just, I won't go overboard. I'll say that's about $1,000 to repaint the walls. And I put that on the list. That's $1,400. That's $1,800 right there. And you look for as many issues as you can. If you see bugs around, you say, look, I might need to get an pest exterminator in. That could cost a few $100s. Okay, so you write these down. Now, what's important about this is that when you negotiate the price, you'll be able to do it honestly because you are being honest, because these are issues that you need to get sorted. Okay, so you can honestly say, look, let's say you've come up with as many issues as you can, and it's come to about 5 or 6, maybe it could be like 10 grand. You never know, in possible repairs or things that need to be done. And that's overdoing it, but it's honest in the fact that it's quite possibly the case. So when you're negotiating, you say, look, I have to get these things done now. Can you knock off? You're going to need to knock off 10 grand off the price to make up for that. Now they might not do that. They might not knock it off if the real estate is really booming in that area. They could just have this stiff shit mentality. If you want a house in this area at this price, this is what you have to pay. But at least you will have all the power in the fact that your concerns are real and that they do need to be taken into account. So that will give you the most power and it will give you the most leverage when doing negotiating a deal. Okay, so if the area is really booming, if real estate really is booming, then you're not going to have any power no matter what. Okay, there's nothing you can say to get the price down. Don't get into the mindset thinking, oh, there's probably someone out there who's so good at negotiating that they could get 20 grand knocked off this house. It's not true. If the house is in a really booming, prominent area, they cannot get the price knocked off. Okay, real estate agents are not dumb. They know when real estate's booming. They know when an area is really wanted. However, what you can do is prevent yourself from overpaying, right? So let's say the house it's a 2-bedroom apartment or a big house. I'll just say 2-bedroom apartment because that's the place that I bought. One of the places I bought a couple. For example, 240 grand is what the real estate agent wanted. Okay, now they really could have got that. 240 grand if they just waited. But when I was negotiating with them, they wanted to sell, and they're willing to walk away at like when I said I won't go lower than like 230, 235. Okay, they didn't want to do 235. And so in order to have leverage in that negotiating process, I needed to come up with all the expenses. Okay, I needed to take account of all the little cracks, everything, and I needed to get the rough estimate, the highest estimate I could, like as if I paid someone to come in and fix it, how much that would cost. And it ended up being about 3 or 4 grand to do fly screens, fix the cracks, some of the floorboards were a bit creaky, fix these things. So when I was able to negotiate, I was able to put those forward, and then for the buyer and the real estate agent, that does get in their head that these are real issues that possible buyers will notice and that will prevent them from buying. Okay, so it's not like you're coming up with fake things like, oh, there's real estate's going to drop soon, so I'm not confident in the area. I mean, you could use that, but that's kind of like, it's not really evident. Okay, that's not really self-evident. You want to find self-evident issues. So a self-evident issue is like there's no fly screen on the window. That's self-evident. Now the buyer could go ahead and fix that, but they're not going to fix everything. I mean, the seller could go ahead and fix that, but they're not going to fix everything. Okay, they're not going to repaint the walls and all that. So you need to come up with all the reasons why the place isn't perfect, and all the reasons why all the issues it's going to cause you when you move in. And that way you have a real number. It's good to have a real number. Okay, you don't just want big broad numbers like I want to knock off 5 grand off the price because the roads are here aren't that good, or the backyard's a bit dirty, or some bullcrap reasons. I'll just knock off the price just because I'm negotiating. That's not very powerful. That's generic negotiating tactics. I'll offer you a price, you offer me a price. We go back and forth. That's generic. You want to come with something specific. Right, because if it's specific and it's hard numbers, it's a lot more. It gives you a lot more leverage, and it puts a lot more doubt in their mind when they're trying to negotiate with you. Okay, so if you've got hard numbers, like if you've got a 5 grand and they're trying to think, oh, how do you come up with that 5 grand? At least they know how you came up with it because you've calculated all the costs that the house is all the costs that you have to take into account. So that's a hard number that you can lean on to give you leverage and give you stability and power when you're negotiating that you can use. And another aspect of that is also if you're doing that, if you're practicing that technique of writing down all the problems and calculating on the spot when you're negotiating, at least then you will know what issues you're going to have to deal with if you do buy it at whatever price. So get those out of the way before you buy it. But that would probably be the best tactic that I use for saving money when buying a house. Another good tactic a tactic, of course, is not being desperate, but not everyone cannot be desperate because a lot of people want to hope and get a house before property keeps increasing. But obviously, have other options in mind. It's always good to be selective. That'll always give you leverage and help you with your buying power if you've got other places that you're looking at. So that way, you're not afraid to lose. Most powerful negotiators are people that aren't afraid to lose. That's why the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, because the rich aren't afraid of losing big deals because they've already got plenty of money, whereas the poor are usually desperate for every opportunity they get, and that desperation becomes obvious and they easily get taken advantage of. So you want to set yourself in a situation where you legitimately have other places that you can buy, that you're willing to buy. So look around and get other places in mind that you like. One thing you could do is go for your second best option that you want. So for example, you see a house that you really like, you like the price and you really want that. Now for fun, go find another place that's similar in price and maybe similar in look, but not as good as the other one you really want. And then you will now have absolute leverage because you really do not want this second rate place. So you'll really be able to negotiate. You have nothing to lose, and you'll be confident, and you'll be say, look, do me a price because this other place is better. And they might be able to knock off 10 grand to get you to buy, because they see that you're serious. They see you got the money, whatever. They'll be able to knock off 10 grand when you negotiate. Because of your confidence and your skills, simply because of the fact that maybe you really are willing to let it go, and you really don't want it the most. You got another one in mind, and when they make the offer, when they negotiate down, you don't have to necessarily take that price, but at least it gives you more options. At least you know now you can pick the number one house that you want at the price they've offered, or you can pick the second best house at this much lower price that they've offered. Also, it helps to if you do that, if you go to let's say you've negotiated on the second best house you want, and you're able to do that with confidence because you had leverage, because you didn't even really want it the most, so you didn't care if they didn't lower the price. And when people usually don't care about something, it's when they win. It's when they win it. Now they've lowered the price, you can take that new price to the house you do want and say, look, they've offered me 10 grand off their price, which is 10 grand less than this one, or 15 grand less than this one. Can you match them, or can you compete with them? So you've got these leveraging skills. And then, as I said in my other audio cast about honesty, when you come with honest arguments and honest beliefs, you're going to have the most power, because people won't be able to walk around you or try and manipulate you, because that's all you've got. That's all there is for them to work with, is pure honesty. And you are being honest. Someone did offer you a cheaper price, which is much more enticing, and you're simply letting them know. And as I mentioned before about knowing what value you bring in your negotiations, you will understand already by simply being honest and letting them know what your concerns are. That will have enough bargaining power. That will give you a lot of bargaining power, a lot of drive in your negotiation. So you might need to listen to that audio cast about the broad, as I speak broadly about negotiating and knowing what value you have when trying to negotiate. We're talking specifically about real estate here, and this is for the masses. So I'm talking about people who are just buying, not people who are buying big, not big investors. I'm not talking to big investors. I'm really talking about people that are just buying houses and they want to save money and they're not sure how to negotiate. Those are skills that I've used that have worked, and people that I know have worked for them. So you don't need to take this advice. You might get other advice from other places, but at least you'll know that's one tactic you can use. It's very simple and it's very common, but not as common as you might think. A lot of people don't think to use it, or don't even think about it. They just usually think to go in and try and negotiate the price just as it is. They usually think that they can just go in, they'll see a house on the market that the person who's selling it wants, let's say the person who's selling it wants 450 grand, they'll just go, okay, let's just go and negotiate. We'll offer them 440. But why are you offering them 440? Just cause, real estate agents are hip to that. They know that you're just going to go in and just do that. And if the area is booming, they'll just be like, nah, sorry, this is the price, 450. We're not going any lower. Okay. So if you want power, if you don't want to be just a generic negotiator, and you want to actually have some power and leverage in the situation, look at the house, find real problems that cost real money, so you've got real numbers, and then you can say, look, I found about 10 grand worth of repairs here. That's how much it would cost me to repair it. For that reason, could you lower 10 grand off the price? Okay, and or if you've looked at another house that you also be willing to looking at buying, you could first negotiate with the house that you want not as much, like the second best house. That way, when you negotiate with them, you'll be more confident because you don't even really want the property as much as you want another one, so you won't mind letting it go. And if you do get them down, you'll have that better price, and you can take that better price to the house you do want and say, look, they've offered me a better price. I'm just being honest here. I want this place, but they've offered me a better price. Can you match that, or can you lower yours to make yours more enticing in comparison to theirs? So those are a couple of tactics you can use when purchasing property if you're just average middle class looking to purchase property. And like I said, that isn't an end-all, be-all to end-all. There maybe are other tactics out there that you can use. I'm not like a real estate investor or anything, so I don't know all the tactics that people might use to negotiate, but I do know that lying isn't conceivable. This idea that there's some amazing negotiators out there that just come in and make all these bullshit lies in order to manipulate people to get better prices, that's not conceivable. That's not realistic. I think it's just something you see in the movies, this sort of suave con men buying houses. It's not really realistic, so it's not really something that everyone can apply. The best thing to do is just to find honest reasons why you think the price should be lowered and come from a place of honesty. And always try. And it's hard to try. I know it's hard to try to negotiate all the time because a lot of people don't find value in who they are. Like they might not find value in what they have to offer, so they'll always kind of feel apprehensive about negotiating. Like they might feel like it's a win-lose scenario where if they win, the other person loses. And that's why I also speak about the win-win. You've got to find the win-win whenever you negotiate, how you can both win. So like I said, if you apply these mindset, it won't be as hard to negotiate. You'll probably get to a point where you actually find it enjoyable because you realize that you are bringing value in every negotiation, and every negotiation will be enjoyable. So it'll make it a lot easier to negotiate, and you won't have anything to lose because you'll just enjoy the process. So that about sums it up, and I'll cover more topics in different audio casts. So if you check them out, then I'll speak to you then. Okay then, bye everyone.